Good morning. So, welcome to the second video on an essay from a cancer survivor. This is part two. If you haven't watched part one, you can go back and so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. So, this young lady shared this essay with me that she wrote for one of her college classes, and she gave me the okay to share it in my videos if I wanted to, and I chose to because there's a lot to take out of this beautiful essay. And so the other day I just read just the first section of it because she did 3 writings. The first section of it, I'm going to do the second section today, and my third video will be the third. And then the third one, at the end of the third, I might just read at the beginning of the third, I'll probably just read the whole essay and then give any comments that I want to give. So here goes. She did the first one was one part of one of the 3 readings that she had to do. So in this one she writes, another sentence that I found to be inspiring is, I wish to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. End quote. This sentence holds so much power. I think it means that to live life according to plans is not worth it. If we go through our lives living by what society claims the pattern to be, is it really living, or are we just surviving? Life should be what you want to make it. I think people worry too much about what others think. So what if your path is different than everyone else's? You live your life for yourself. Make the best of everything, because you don't want to come to the point where it's your time to pass on and you realize you didn't really live life at all. It is best not to take things for granted. Why live by societal rules if in reality those rules really don't exist? I'm going to end right there. That was beautiful that she wrote this. A couple of things that I can take away from here. She had mentioned about, living before your life passes and not taking things for granted, which I believe I might have touched on that in the first video. I don't remember, but we shouldn't take things for granted. Yes, she mentioned in the first part of her essay about the small things, like just the air we breathe and just, having another day. Those are the things that many people take for granted. And I don't blame, I'm not knocking people for it, because we just, we go through life. But sometimes we need to stop and process what we're reading, process what we're hearing. And I believe also that she mentioned something like that in the first part of this essay. Process what we're hearing and just take it. I usually tell people when I read scripture, because there are a lot of get through the Bible in a year, reading plans out there. And that's okay, but I don't ascribe to that, and I don't encourage people to do that. And the reason being, because there's so many powerful verses, there's so many powerful scriptures in the whole Bible, that to just fly through it, to say I finished the Bible in a year, but you got nothing out of it, is foolish. I'd rather take a whole year just to go through one book of the Bible and get so much wisdom and knowledge that comes from the Bible. So I chose to add a little bit more to what she said, not taking away from what she said, but just commenting on some of the things that she said. And one of the things that I want to comment on is I think people worry too much about what others think. And it's amazing that this sentence comes from this young lady. And we see in today's society how, especially the young adults, the younger kids, the teenagers, we see how so many of them worry too much about what their peers think, what people think. They think about, how many likes are they going to get on their social media channel or page, how many shares, how many, people going to like it. And it's become to the point, look at the selfies alone. I see on YouTube all these shorts that come up, and these, especially young girls, it's more young girls than young boys who are so fixated on themselves. And I don't blame them, but it's society and it's the things that they've been taught. So anyway, I decided to touch on that topic a little bit. I think people worry too much about what others think, and I'm going to read. We must look to the Lord for help in our time of need. God's grace is sufficient for any problem that you may face because of this. Caring what other people think can cause you to make a terrible impression on others. Instead of being genuine and expressing who you are, you put up a facade, okay? A facade. You change the way you do things and you try to impress instead. So why change who you are to try to impress other people? Because you're just being fake. Your mind is going in so many different directions that it can cause you to just stall in complete anxiety. And that's what I see, that, especially so many young people today they're completely overtaken by society, by anxiety. And it has to do basically with what's expected of them and what they think of other people are going to think about them. Those are some of the things that I feel are impacting them. So I'm going to share some quotes with you guys about what other people think. Okay, I didn't get the authors, but I'm going to read five bullet points that I have here for quotes. The greatest prison people live in is the fear of what other people think. One of the greatest mental freedoms is to truly not care what anyone else thinks. Think about that. One of the greatest mental freedom is to truly not care what anyone else think of you. What God knows about me is more important than what others think about me. Until we care more about what God thinks than what other people think, we never truly are free. That's the same as the almost. You are not what others think you are. You are what God knows you are. If you did not care what other people think, then you would be the most confident person in the world. Just think about that. You wouldn't be dealing with those discouraging thoughts. I'm too this, or I'm too that, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. For fear would be something in the past if you didn't think about that, if you didn't care about what other people said. Caring about the thoughts of others stops you from doing God's will in your life. Many times, God tells us to do something, and our family tell us to do the opposite, and we get discouraged. Everyone is going to think I'm a fool, you think to yourself. Okay, so I'm going to pause 1 second from what I wrote here. I go back to, I was in a car one day, and I'm driving, and I had a family member with me. I'm not going to mention who it was. And it was a homeless person, and the homeless person came up to the car, and I gave him money. And my family member says, why do you do that? They're only going to go and they're going to spend it on drugs or alcohol or cigarettes or whatever. Why do you do that? And my response to that person was, I do what I feel the Lord is calling me to do. What that person does with the money that I give him, that's between him and God. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I'm just obedient to whatever the Lord calls me to do. And at that moment, that's what I felt the Lord calling me to do. In Proverbs 29:25, it says, and this is just, I got this from an article, and they inserted a little bit in here. It says, it is dangerous to be concerned with what others think of you. But if you trust the Lord, you are safe. That's Proverbs 29:25. But if you trust the Lord, you are safe. I'm going to talk about Solomon for a second. Solomon is the wisest man to have ever lived. If you don't know anything about the Bible, I highly suggest that you go read the book of Proverbs, which most of it was written by Solomon. Solomon was the son of King David. And Solomon, when he became king, he asked God for one thing. The only thing he asked God for, he says, Lord, give me wisdom to guide these, your people. So that's all he asked for. And what did God do? God gave him not only wisdom, but God gave him all the riches. Solomon was the richest man that ever lived. And he was so wise. So Solomon wrote a lot of the Proverbs, which I tell people, go read the book of Proverbs. It's the best instruction manual for humanity that you can ever find. Okay, it tells you, you do this good thing, you get this good result. You do this bad thing, you get this bad result, basically. Solomon also wrote the book of Ecclesiastes, which is one of my favorite books in the Bible. I highly suggest you go read it. A lot of it you might know in the beginning, where it says it's the time to die and the time to live, time to laugh, time to cry. That's from one of the songs from the Byrds from the late 60s. But anyway, that's the book of Ecclesiastes. Solomon basically just said, he's done everything in the world, okay? He's the richest man. So what's the purpose of life? So he goes on to try other things. He does so much. He's so rich he could do all these things. He did so much, and he did so much. And at the end of the book of Ecclesiastes in chapter 12, what does the wisest man on earth find out? What is the meaning of life? And it says this, okay? And Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verses 13 and 14, Solomon says, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandment. For this is man's all, or man's purpose. For God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. God will bring